Hey guys, alright, I'm Body Martial Arts. Welcome to another edition of my 2 cents training tips in conjunction with the YouTube channel and the Facebook page. How's everyone doing out there? I just wanted to deal with a bit of criticism of the iron body training, or iron skills conditioning in general, criticisms that are out there. This is in light of some criticism that I had. It does come and go, it comes across the line, but if you guys have trained these things or any kind of karate, traditional karate, kung fu, whatever, you probably would have had similar, or may have had similar things in the past. It's the old boards don't hit back criticism, and don't get me wrong, I've got nothing against Bruce Lee. And similar criticisms, that won't work, this doesn't work, etc, etc, etc. In a real fight, blah 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 blah. Okay, now, first off I want to tell a story. Okay. There's a Shaolin monk, he's walking from the temple, hundreds of years ago, okay? He comes across some bandits, okay? The bandits set about him. He stops them with his hand like this, and they stop because he makes a movement, so they stop, they pull away, and they're weary. Picks up a stone, with his 2 fingers, strikes at the stone and powders the stone and breaks the stone. Bandits look at him. They understand the danger of what they have just seen, and they bugger off and leave him alone. And he beats them without even having to have fought them. Okay, now that analogy is what I want people to think. If they don't know anything about conditioning, if they don't know anything about the 72 Secret Arts of the Shaolin or the training, that is the analogy of what I want people to think. That is also the ideal I want people to train with. Well, actually, you train with whatever ideal you want, but that's an ideal I train with. Okay, now, what these boards don't hit back, that wouldn't work in a real fight. People need to, what they actually need to think, well, actually, they just need to understand more of what they're seeing. Because and it surprises me when these things actually come from martial artists. Because it's not the martial artist inside them saying these things often. It's the human. It's the human jealousy. It's the human sort of ignorance to something you don't do. It's like how people see judo and they go, oh, judo, that's not a real fighting martial art. You can't do shit with that. Well, you can. It can be very dangerous with judo. And likewise, it's like how people from judo, and I've seen many instructors do this, because they do a grappling art, they are totally against striking. So I've actually heard judo instructors say this. Oh, you don't want to be doing a conditioning and striking, damage your bones and damage your knuckles. And that those both arguments are how people become ignorant. Because one person tells you one thing about the other and the other says one thing about the other, and those segregated people believe those things. Whereas really they should have a bit of nous up here and be a bit clever. Yeah, like for instance MMA. Yeah? Where it is recognized that you need striking, but you also need grappling, and you also need to be a rounded person and a rounded fighter. And being a more rounded fighter would be great for everyone. Okay? So, also to the critics, I want to say this. If you have a knife and you sharpen that knife, it is a sharper knife. It is more dangerous. Now, it doesn't matter if someone comes along with a blunter knife, yeah, they can still kill you. They can still damage you. But nothing they say will make their knife sharper than yours if it isn't. They can stand there all day and talk crap, but this knife will be sharper than this one, full stop. And that's another analogy I want to give for the naysayers out there. If someone spends more time than you actually train your martial art, if you go once or twice a week or whatever, or even 3 times a week, if they spend more time than that, like the Shaolin monk, if they spend more time than you even train your whole martial art, just training one specific skill from theirs, don't you dare come to them and try and compare, because it ain't going to happen. Yeah? And don't you be so foolish as to not see that their knife is sharper than yours. Okay? Now, in case the analogy needs explaining further, I'll just explain it a little bit further and then I'll go. At base level, like the Shaolin monk, and we're not talking base level, if someone trains these old style conditionings, and they're also got a bit of nous and they're a martial artist, which you have to give them credit for, if someone trains these old skills, iron palm, iron fist, training the bones, hitting the striking the wooden dummy, doing all these things, they're doing it for all that time. They're developing the density of their bones, the strength above the normal level that is accepted in the Western society or Eastern society. Don't come along with your, I'm an instructor of martial arts, I've learnt for a couple of years, I do 2 or 3 lessons a week. You know, I'm all of a sudden entitled to sort of negate their hours and hours of years of training and say, oh, that wouldn't work in a real fight. When that's basically them just doing a little exercise, training exercise. But the exercise is sharpening that knife. Okay? And no amount of posturing, like I said, no amount of posturing of yours, no amount of ignorance, no amount of anything, no amount of trying to plug your own bullshit is going to stop their knife being sharper than yours. Okay? And that is the analogy of iron training I want to give out there. And it doesn't matter if you strip away everything from that person. Okay? So people just see idiots who punch things. So okay, strip them down to an idiot who just has really strong fists and forearms and a really resistant body, resistant to strikes, resistant to damage. They train their head so that their neck's strong to make them resistant to getting knocked out. But albeit you can't judge what degree, but better than nothing and better than not training. If you strip all that down and you attack them, you are attacking a person who is inherently very strong, very powerful, has very dense bones, and if they hit you, will hurt you. Now, add to that a martial artist with years of experience, with years of training, who isn't stupid like you think they are, because they're a human just like you and you're not very clever and you seem to have made it. And other styles on top of that, because most of the people who train iron body skills and this and that, they come from karate, Shotokan, they come from other styles of kung fu, they come from kickboxing, they come from Western boxing. I've done 5 or 6 or more different styles with varying degrees of years and practice. So even if I was an idiot, you know, I can do something. And that's the message I'd like to send out to people there. And it's gone on a bit too long now, so no one's probably listening. But I think people need to take a long, hard look at themselves, how much they train and what they do. Or a long, hard look at another person, what they train and what they do, before they open their mouths and try and say that their sword is sharper than the other person's when they spend less than half the amount of time sharpening it, or they don't sharpen it at all. And they think that that's going to cut them and do damage. Or to the fool who, when the Shaolin monk powders the stone with his fingers, goes, yeah, I'll have a go at that guy. Because you'll be a dead fool. Okay guys, have a good one.